In episode 7, you learn who these mystery people are. There's actually 3 in the group. You've got Hannah, you've got Edwin. Those are the 2 scientists, and then you've got Cody, who's their guide, who's going to keep them safe. Now, what they're doing in the middle of the woods is they're tracking a very rare species of frog that only mates once every, 10 to 15 years, and it's never been recorded. They're searching that out to record it, and then obviously that would be a huge discovery. While the work is important, it's worth noting that Edwin is not about that roughing it lifestyle. The guy could probably be described as a bitch, and that's coming from somebody who is a self-proclaimed bitch. It takes one to know one. He's definitely one. Hannah was a little bit better suited for the terrain, but she also has her eyes on Cody, which might be a little bit of a problem because she is dating Edwin, but Cody's jacked, he's good-looking, he can handle himself, and he's a menace with a crossbow, so the attraction's pretty obvious. And as the group got deeper and deeper into their expedition, Edwin got more and more self-conscious, so you could clearly see that his girlfriend was attracted to the guide. Either way, though, the group was stuck with Cody. The fact is, as they went off trying to record frogs and capture frogs, he was keeping them alive. The group did end up bonding a little bit. They smoked some weed together. Cody telling them about how he got into this line of work, and them telling Cody about how the frogs will stay frozen for 7 years, and then all of a sudden they'll just wake up and bang each other's brains out. While they were smoking the weed, though, they ended up accidentally breaking their satellite phone, which was their break-for-glass emergency item in case an emergency did arise. Now, Cody didn't think it was a big deal because he thought, hey, I'm your emergency contact, you guys are safe, don't worry about it, but Edwin was legit concerned. Hannah and Cody, though, they were too big to realize the magnitude of breaking this item. This caused a little bit of a rift between Edwin and Hannah. When the day came where they would eventually find the girls, Edwin was questioning just about everything that Cody did, Hannah pointing out that this is Cody's job, you probably should trust him, but Edwin had just reached a breaking point. That night, it was actually Edwin who noticed that there were people nearby. He could smell a faint smell of what he thought was barbecue at the time. He thought, okay, that means that there's people nearby. And he wanted to go find them, which Cody said, yeah, I wouldn't recommend that at all. If people are this far from civilization, they probably don't want to be found. But Edwin wasn't about to listen. So he followed the smell, with Hannah in tow and Cody way, way, way behind. Never in their wildest dreams did they think they would find what they eventually did find. Hannah saying, oh my God, what is this? And that's actually caught on the DAT tape that was given to the girls years later. Van was the one who actually broke the tension by saying, oh my God, we're going home. But that's when Edwin saw the head and he flipped out a little bit. Edwin starts putting the pieces together. You've got the faint smell of barbecue. You've got a human head over here. But before he can flat out call the girls out as cannibals, he feels something in the back of his head. It's an axe that Lottie plunged into the back of his head, killing him instantly. This caused Hannah and Cody to flee immediately. As Cody was running into the woods, he turned around and fired his crossbow, and then ended up hitting Melissa right in the shoulder. She was pretty badly injured. Shauna, seeing this, looked at Mari and said, Mari, if she dies, meaning Melissa, then you die. And even though the girls were surprised, they went after them both. Natalie pleading with the group, don't hurt them, just bring them back. Cody and Hannah eventually split up. With the girls pretty close by, Hannah decided to record an audio file, which was the DAT tape, for her daughter back at home. It was a last-ditch resort just in case these girls decided to kill her as well. While they were searching for these two, Ty and Van came across the camp, and thus they came across the satellite phone. Initially, they got excited, but when they realized it was broken, their excitement turned to disappointment. Ty, trying to find the bright side of the situation, said, well, at least we have all these supplies for the village. And Van told her, we don't need any of it, though. We just need to find these people so we can go home. Eventually, the stress of the situation gets to Hannah, and she gives herself up to Shauna and Natalie. And Natalie tries to tell her, hey, don't worry, nothing's going to happen to you. What happened back at the camp, that wasn't us. But Shauna, she's pissed. She wants revenge for what happened to Melissa, and she doesn't care who she gets the revenge from. She puts a knife to Hannah's back and starts yelling at her about the arrow situation, but Hannah says, it wasn't me. I don't have any weapons. I'm not a threat to you guys. That's when Van and Thaisa show up, and Natalie, trying to restore order, says, look, just take her back to camp. We'll figure this out, and we'll figure out how to get home. But Shauna says, no, they know what we did. We can still get rescued without leaving any witnesses. Both Van and Thaisa think she's nuts, with Van pointing out it's already bad enough Lottie killed one of them. In order to buy herself some goodwill and some time, Hannah says, hey, your friend that got hit, well, I know where there's some first aid. As Hannah escorts the group to get that first aid, Melissa is not doing well with this arrow in her. At this point, morning has come, and they realize that they're going to have to push the arrow through her because the arrow is barbed. While she's watching this, Lottie, who seemingly feasted a little on Edwin, says, hey, can I help? And the group that's actually trying to help says, yeah, you've done enough, Lottie. Lottie goes on to explain that the strangers were going to ruin everything, but no one wants to hear that at this point. They just want to help Melissa. Once they do finally push the arrow through, that's when the group with Hannah returns to camp. As for Cody, he put up a good fight, but he too was eventually caught by Travis, Misty, and Akila. And by caught, I mean the group actually saved his life. They could have just let him fall when he fell off a cliff, but they didn't. Now, as for present day, Shauna heads back to the hotel with the DAT tape, and she heads in the bathroom so she can listen to it in its entirety with a little bit of privacy. Afterwards, she decides to search Hannah, Frogs, the company she was working for, because she still needs to know who exactly sent her this tape. She starts reading Hannah's obituary, but that's when Jeff knocks on the door and says, hey, are you going to be in there a while? Should I just go to the lobby? And Shauna comes out and says, no, you shouldn't be spending time in the lobby. We're in danger. Shauna then goes to grab her jacket, and Jeff says, wait, where are you going? And Shauna says, oh, I got to go make some phone calls. And that pisses Jeff off. He says, oh, okay, you can go wherever you want, but me and Callie, we have to just stay here like prisoners? Jeff wants to help, but Shauna says, look, if you want to help, just keep an eye on Callie. She's really smart. She asks a lot of questions. For her own safety, though, she needs to back off of this. Since they're in a hotel room, though, Callie can hear this, and she's doing a little search of her own. Unsolved Missing Persons, Canada, 1990s, hoping that she can get a lead. As Shauna goes off to make these phone calls, Misty has made an appearance at the hotel where Van and Thaisa were staying. She had texted Ty the previous night that they need to talk, but when Ty never got back to her, she decided to pay her a visit and demand answers. Demand to know why exactly she met Lottie the night she died. Ty just says, it wasn't anyone's business. I met up with her to have a private conversation, but that doesn't mean I murdered her. Misty comes right out and says, well, did you murder her? And Ty doesn't say no. She just asks, well, why would I? Whereupon Misty points out she did lie, and she has a history of doing some crazy stuff and not knowing anything about it. And when Misty looks over at Van, she can tell that Van thinks that Ty is capable of it. Van, however, denies it. Her face tells a different story, and Thaisa says, there you have it. I didn't do it, and also, it's pretty obvious. Whoever sent the tape to Shauna, she's the one, or he's the one who murdered Lottie. For Misty, this is the first she's hearing about the tape. She desperately wants to know what's on it, so the trio leave the hotel and head over to Shauna's hotel, where they run into her actually leaving the elevator. They ask Shauna what the hell's going on, and Shauna explains there was more on the tape than just what Lottie did. Hannah recorded a message for her daughter. None of them knew this. None of them knew that Hannah had a daughter. But now Shauna's convinced that it's the daughter who sent them the tape. Thaisa asks her, so where are you going exactly? And Shauna says, I'm going to stop her. Where else would I be going? Misty points out that this probably means that they're going to have to clean up Shauna's mess. And Shauna gets defensive, but Van says, Shauna, Misty's right. I mean, your track record's iffy. What exactly are you planning on doing to this girl? And Shauna claims that she's planning on sitting her down and having a gentle, reasonable conversation with her. No one buys that, though. They know Shauna too well. Shauna's heading to Richmond, Virginia. That's where Hannah's daughter lives, and whether they like it or not, they have to go with her. They have to make sure that Shauna isn't going to do something really, really dumb. So, the four of them get into Shauna's minivan, and they head out for a road trip. While they're driving, they all are able to listen to the tape and hear the message. The reason why they didn't know that she had a daughter was because it wasn't mentioned in the obituary. It was a teen pregnancy. The daughter never even had Hannah's name. Shauna just did some digging and found the birth record. The question then arises, how did the tape even get smuggled out of the wilderness? Ty ends up mentioning how Jen and Melissa got pretty close with Hannah, but both of them are dead. Misty points out that means there's two mysteries going on here. One, who brought the tape back from the wilderness, but two, why would Hannah's daughter wait 25 years to all of a sudden go looking for revenge? When the group ends up stopping for gas, that gives Van and Thaisa a little bit of time alone for Van to ask Ty, so what exactly did you and Lottie talk about that day? A frustrated Ty says, I went to go talk to her because that day you chickened out. I wanted to know her take on the situation. I mean, do you remember what she said the night that Natalie died? How it was pleased with us? Van thinks this is ridiculous, but Ty says, look, you're improving. I mean, even your doctor couldn't come up with a better word other than miracle. You didn't change your diet. You didn't get any kind of treatment. Van reminds Ty that she's not willing to live that way. And Ty tells Van, you don't have to. I'll live that way for you. AKA, I'll sacrifice somebody so that you can live a longer life. Van asks Ty, promise me you didn't do it. But before the Ty can answer, Misty and Shauna come out and interrupt the conversation. As they get back on the road, Misty gets a phone call from Walter. She tells all the girls that Walter's been real thirsty lately, and she starts off the conversation by saying, how many times do I have to tell you to stop calling me? Walter knows exactly what Misty's doing, so he gets right to the point. He got the DNA results back, and it was Shauna's DNA that was under Lottie's fingernails. That pretty much points to Shauna being Lottie's killer. Misty starts a group text in the car with both Thaisa and Van to let them know about the DNA results. It's pretty obvious, though, to Shauna, who's driving the vehicle, that they're all texting each other. She demands to know what's going on, and they beg Shauna to stop the car so they can confront her. But that's when Shauna's forced to stop the car because Van starts coughing up a ton of blood. They have to get her to a hospital immediately. When they get to the hospital, the only one that's allowed back is Thaisa. She lies and says that she's Van's wife. This, by the way, is big news to Misty and Shauna, who had no idea that Van even had cancer, let alone it was this bad. While Shauna starts trying to wrap her head around the fact that this is crazy, I mean, Van having cancer, that's when Misty accuses Shauna of killing Lottie. Shauna gets really, really defensive, saying, how could you even think that? And Misty says, because there's DNA evidence. Shauna denies it once again and asks Misty, what's your problem? I mean, Van is back there dying and you're sitting here accusing me of killing Lottie? The petty squabbling between these two continues until finally Shauna gets up and leaves. She's not going to listen to it anymore. As Shauna leaves all three girls in the hospital and heads off to Richmond, Virginia, Ty is by Van's bedside. And when she makes a comment like, I'm going to kill that guy for being so annoying and loud, it was another patient, Van grabs her hand because she wants to know that Ty isn't actually going to do it. Van, though, starts to hallucinate. She ends up seeing her old teenage self. She's back in the wilderness. And her teenage self tells her, we never actually cheated death. It was always an even trade. And then her teenage self lights the bed on fire. This causes real-life Van's heart rate to skyrocket, and doctors rush in. As the doctors are working on Van, she looks around and she sees Thaisa, but Thaisa looks like she's been eating dirt. And she tells Van, don't worry, I won't let them take your eyes. This isn't the end for us. You're not going to die. Van, knowing exactly who she's talking to, tells this other Thaisa, no, I don't want to talk to you. I want my Thaisa back. And Psycho Thaisa tells her, but I'm the only one that can save you right now. All of this, though, appears to be a hallucination. However, the doctors work tirelessly to get Van under control. Now, while all this is happening, back at the hotel, Callie confronts her dad about something that's been festering inside of her. She says, this whole time we've been thinking that bad things happen to us. And we've been telling ourselves that Mom is a good person. Well, what if in reality, Mom's a bad person? Jeff kind of brushes it off. He thinks it's ridiculous. But then Callie asks, did Mom ever mention crossing paths with frog scientists when she was in the wilderness? Because in the fall of '97, 2 researchers and a guide disappeared without a trace. And it was less than 100 miles from where the Yellowjackets plane went down. Once again, Jeff thinks this is just ridiculous. But Callie says, well, I think the tape that got sent to Mom, I think that's a part of their research project. And Mom and Ty and Van, they all knew exactly what it was. While he doesn't want to admit it, this does make sense to Jeff. He starts scratching. He's trying to get his head around this. And Callie stops him and says, Dad, I think we all know that deep down, they're all capable of it. And as Callie and Jeff are having this intimate conversation, Shauna has arrived in Richmond, Virginia. She arrived at Hannah's daughter's house. She's parked outside, and she's brought a knife.
Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry. It'll be up in a day or two.